Like, so you know how the dialogue in this game, a lot of people have been saying it's lighter than the previous games, and it feels different for some players. Um, this thread on X is absolutely brilliant, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit this morning because it's so true. So this guy at Gede Park says, I haven't seen the D&D movie yet, but it seems like the time as it might be the perfect side dish to the goofiness of Dragon Age Veilguard. And then this guy Jeremy Cooper said, you know what this game reminds me of at this point? Chris Pine's D&D movie. Now, if you've not seen Chris Pine's D&D movie yet, it is hilarious. It is awesome. And it is D&D at its core. It reminds me of like every good session I've had sitting down with real players at a table and like the joking and the camaraderie, and it's like you have some stuff that's super serious, but it's always mixed up with, you know, light banter of the players having fun amongst themselves. And in particular, the thing I love about this is like if you've watched my rook play the game, I have almost always chosen these sarcastic options in dialogue. Not always, but almost every time. And um, there's a scene which we've mentioned a couple times in this game. There's a scene in that film when they get the amulet and they go, or the talk to undead spell, and they go to talk to the undead in the graveyard, and Chris Pines, they keep asking like the questions amongst themselves, and it screws up the spell, and they keep having to get a new corpse because they can't stop asking questions amongst themselves. What really got me though here was the comment section, because these are people who are genuinely enjoying the game and having a good time playing Dragon Age the Veilguard. And this is what I wanted to focus on this morning. Yeah, Just Dan. I think everybody who saw the D&D film really loved it. It's definitely better than the Jeremy Irons film of the late 90s, early 2000s, which is still a really important D&D movie in the canon of D&D movies, but um this is this they said I found it hard at first because Dragon Age I wanted Dragon Age Veilguard to be like grimdark, like Dragon Age Inquisition, but then I realized my rook is Chris Pine with horns, and I just let it go and enjoyed the ride, and now I'm okay with it. And I think that right there is what a lot of people are having a hard time with. They're not able to let it go. They keep trying to define what Dragon Age Veilguard should be because I want it to be grimdark. I want it to be like this, and it's like it's not. And you can either accept it, embrace it, and have fun with it, or you can be like, no, I'm not going to enjoy it because I'm a curmudgeon and I hate everyone and I want to be everyone to be bitter like I am. But this guy says, I originally found it hard. Then I realized my rook is Chris Pine with horns, and I frankly let it go and join the ride, which is great. Um, Kate Bush says, I was saying this when I was playing. Infinite Umber says, this is funny because this is the exact description of Dragon Age I gave it. Bryant says, this is the comment that convinced me to get the game, which I think is hilarious. This is me right here. I have been playing as female voice to Erika Ishii and picking every comedy sassy speech option because it's Erika. So it wasn't unprompted for me. It fit the character perfectly, and it totally reminds me of Marvel's Midnight Suns in vibe and tone and critical role. And I think this is the key. A lot of people who are complaining, those vocal minorities, I don't think they've ever actually played like D&D or watched like a fun D&D movie or watched Critical Role or anything like, because I've heard some people say, it's like He-Man dialogue, it's like this, that, or the other. The best explanation I've seen right here is like it's like the Chris Pine D&D movie, or it's like Critical Role. The dialogue with the companions in Dragon Age: The Veilguard is a lot like a good Critical Role session. Those people are having fun together. It's never super, like the campaign can be serious. If you ever watch any of the Critical Role seasons, those campaigns can be super serious and super deep, but they're also accessible and fun, and there's banter and there's discussions. My One of the funniest things yesterday was when Tosh, we were doing I think it was yesterday morning at the beginning of the session, we were watching the scenes, or maybe it was the day before, whatever. The scenes where you're going through Solus's memories, and he's talking about Solus and Mythal, I think is her name. Anyway, and Tash goes, "They were doing it, weren't they?" And my character gave the sarcastic response and was like, "Yeah, they were totally doing it." And I see some people who have gotten offended by that, and they're like, "That's not the way they would talk in Dragon Age. This is supposed to be medieval grimdark. How dare they use like modern language? They're doing it." And I think that it's brilliant because it does open up that Critical Role, Chris Pine's D&D movie feel of they're just people having a good time in between adventuring, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I love going through here. Um, this said the movie surprised me because it was everything I seemingly hated about the MCU, but it was actually good. Then they complain about Veilguard, so they don't get it yet. You sold me on Dragon Age. What a good movie. And then you have the bitter curmudgeons who are like, "No, the difference is the D&D movie was funny and not at all cringe. Not to mention it actually took some risks. This game is as edgy as a billiard ball." That person hasn't gotten to the point in the storyline where you have to make the decision between the two cities. Because the moment you have to make that decision between the two cities, it's like, oh shit, like this game has some serious consequences. And also like the that first village you go to where the mayor, like, uh, spoiler territory. You're watching my streams. There's no spoiler territory. The mayor who is like given up his village to the blight, and you like are going through the town, and everybody's like impaled on spikes, and the mayor himself is like wrapped up in the spikes, and and my rook chose to say, "You deserve your fate," and I left him there to be strangled by the blight and or eaten by wolves. And it's like you can't tell me that this game doesn't still have the grimdark when there are things like that in the game. Dragon Age, if you've ever played any of the Dragon Age games, they have always had really good, like, dark moments, but also fun banter between the companions. I actually watched um, the I think it was an Asmongold clip last night on TikTok where he was comparing Dragon Age Origins, the first game, and it was the scene when like there's this banter between Alistair and Morrigan. And 100% of the dialogue between Alistair and Morgan in that scene that he was showing off on in that clip was literally them having the banter of the D&D movie and the banter that we see happening all the time, like between, like, if you've ever had like Nev and Tash in your party at the same time, the banter between those two characters is constant. Um, Davrin and Lucanus, oh, there's banter there as well. And it's like there's barbs and there's back and forth, but you have to see it. And a lot of the problems with people who played Dragon Age Origins back when they were 12 years old or 15 years old, they're viewing it through these rose tinted glasses that's not allowing them to see the fact that the dialogue from back then is just as cheesy and fun, and not cheesy in a bad way. It's the Critical Role Chris Pine D&D film fun. It's fun banter between companions. Transcend says, funny thing for me is the tone of Dragon Age didn't really find its identity until Inquisition, and Veilguard is just more of that, which is a win-win in my mind. Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, I think that at the end of the day, it does have its own identity here, but we also get so many reflections of what came before with just sort of peppering in lighthearted dialogue moments in between the darkness of like villagers impaled on spikes and having to decide which city you have to sacrifice, and things of that nature. Like the consequences for Lucanus because of my actions were very visceral and very real. And then when we got down into I think it was when we went into the deep roads with Harding yesterday, and you walk in and there's all those people that are impaled on stakes by the darkspawn, and it's like you can't tell me that there's not grimdark in this game because it's everywhere I turn. There's grimdark. Um, and I don't think that there is that complaint, Nuno. Like some people want to be bad, they want to be the evil character, and this game doesn't let you be evil. And that's something that I think some players are upset with because they want to be the evil bad guy. And I'm hard pressed because I've never played bad evil characters, but I don't remember in any of my playthroughs of Dragon Age Origins or any of the other Dragon Age games, I don't remember ever being allowed to be an evil character. Like I was always saving the day. Like even if I made some decisions that were not necessarily the best decisions, at the end of the day, you're always about saving the day and saving, humanity and saving the elves, the dwarves, and everybody else. Like I don't really ever remember being able to play a murder hobo. Not that I ever would. As opposed to say, and I hear this a lot. I hear a lot of people going, "Yeah, but in Baldur's Gate 3, I could be a murder hobo and I could play the Dark Urge and I could choose to just murder everyone and side with Ball and I could be the murder hobo." Yeah. Baldur's Gate 3 is not Dragon Age, and you can't compare those two. Different. I don't. Not only that, I don't want them to be the same. Like I want games to be different. That's why I play different games because each game does its own thing. So for me, I thought this was a brilliant take comparing Dragon Age Veilguard to the Chris Pine D&D movie or like Critical Role in terms of the banter and the camaraderie between the characters. I think it's a lot of fun. I've been having a lot of fun with it anyway.